How Does Your Garden Grow is on the 2018 garden tour, the Holliston Garden Club. And our first stop is with Deb Coviello, and we're admiring her beautiful garden. Would you like to tell us about your garden and how it got started, Deb?
Sure. So we've been here 5 years. This was farmland, totally open space, nothing on it, a lot of weeds, bittersweet. So we pulled out a lot of things and cleared the area. Basically, my husband and I have made all these beds, and each year have kind of kept progressing and moving things in. I did transfer 90 plants from my original home to this garden. I lived on Hill Street originally.
Well, Deb, I've noticed there's an interesting tree on this property. Could you tell us about it?
Sure. That's an old crabapple. When we bought the property, very huge. I mean, it had limbs going down on the grass, growing back up the grass. It was enormous. You could walk under it. Unfortunately, this past winter, with the heavy weight of snow, it split into 3 pieces. But this tree, according to one of the original owners, is from about 1870. So one of my favorite areas, when I designed the garden, I was trying to design a front yard where you don't have the typical shrubs and yews and everybody puts rhododendrons in and the same things. I wanted to really mix it up and give depth to the front garden.
Thank you, Deb. This has been wonderful, and I really learned a lot from your idea of not doing something typical and what people would expect, and it gives a lot more interest to your garden.
Yeah.
So this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our second stop is at Lee Gerton's house, and we're visiting her garden today at 485 Central Street as our garden tour continues for the Holliston Garden Club. We are here on Railroad Street with Barbara Daly, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the garden that she inherited and is now on the garden tour this year.
Yeah, so I moved in here about a year ago, and one of the selling points of the house was definitely the beautiful established garden. I don't have the vision nor the skill to kind of plan all of this, but I do have the skills to keep it up, I think, and I'm trying very hard.
Well, it looks lovely today, and I understand there's a very special garden around the other side of the house. You want to tell us about that?
There was, so the former owner of the house, she planted on the side of the house a Boston Marathon bombing memorial garden. After that happened, she had, kind of the whole side of the house was really kind of unused, and she wanted to do that. So, there's some white azaleas that are planted in memory of the different victims of the bombing, and I know that there's some blue, there's some little blue flowers that, are for the, some of the little boy who died, I think. So, and that was really, I connected with that too, because, I've actually run the marathon a few times, so that was kind of a special connection for me as well. So,
wow, that's a very nice connection, and we really appreciate you having us here today to show all the flowers that are blossoming in that special garden, the Boston Marathon Garden. So yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
We're here today for the garden tour at Tree Specialist with Barbara Briggs at 140 Washington Street. And this is just spectacular, Barbara. Oh my God, it takes your breath away. There's so many different little aspects of the garden, like a garden here, another garden there. Oh, I love it. It's so relaxing. So could you tell us about what you've done here?
Sure. Well, we started building the gardens, I would say, in 2000. And when we first started doing the gardens, it was just grass right to Washington Street. So even though the different layers of garden don't filter the traffic per se, visually it does give us a sense of calming. So that was sort of our purpose of building this path garden, to create just 2 layers of vegetation and also a place for me to plant all my plants, because I definitely am a plant collector.
What is your favorite place in the garden?
My favorite place in the garden is probably the space that the large Goshen patio, because there's just so many little aspects to it. Even though it's not that big, as the sun moves throughout the day, if you want to be warm, you can sit in the sun. If you want to be in the shade, you can sit in the shade. And it's connected to the house, so you just kind of walk out on the large stones, and you can walk out in your socks and still be comfortable. So I'd say that. And then I love strolling at night with the dogs around the path garden too.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your gardens?
No, I would say that, I always start with native plants as my framework, and then from there I try to use associates of the native plants, and then, but I am a horticulturalist and I love plants, so I collect plants too, so they're not all native, but I do like to plant the native plants to showcase them in a garden, so I would say that's sort of the framework. But other than that, it's just a, explosion of plants.
It's very, very impressive.
Thank
and
you.
Very, very nice, and you would never know that this was back here.
Oh.
I drive by twice a day, and I never knew that this beauty was lying right back here.
Well, stop by on your way home from work some night.
I will. Especially
we'll have a nice fire pit.
Yeah, especially a crazy day when you need something
Exactly.
quiet and gather yourself back together. So thank you for having us here. This is
Sure,
just
sure,
lovely.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Another beautiful garden in Holliston belongs to Kathy Shore on 10 Cassandra Lane. Thank you for having us, Kathy. This tour is great, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about what you have going on here.
Well, you caught me still in the garden. I'm not quite done and ready for the tour yet, but Bob and I bought this property in 2001. Nothing here was on the property. It was an empty lot. So what we've done, every tree you see, every piece of foliage, every flower, everything we planted ourselves over the last 17 years. So we started in the fall of 2001. So it's been exciting. It's been where I'm not a natural gardener. I'm not trained or anything. So if it didn't work, we just threw it into the woods and we tried something else. I've learned a lot from my friends. I've taken a couple classes now, but still our favorite thing is just watching it all grow. If you can tell from some of the birdhouses, that's my husband's hobby. We probably have like 5 or 6 birdhouses and about 15 feeders. It's kind of an expensive hobby, but it's his passion. And we've watched, probably about 4 or 5 sets of birds come, and bluebirds all have already had their babies and stuff like that. So that's our favorite thing. And he, for Mother's Day, the last 2 years, has been building my raised beds for me. So I'm slowly getting into some vegetable gardening.
What's your favorite part about your gardens? What came out like more than your expectation?
I think just the backyard part, just creating a sense where we can sit in our Adirondack chairs, which we got for our first anniversary, and just sit back here and just look and just relax. So all of it's kind of fun. So the backyard is my favorite, and I think Bob's too. So.
Well, thank you very much for having us here. This is beautiful. I love being here.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun, so it's our passion. So.
Well, you've done a great job.
All right. Well, thank you.
We're at 53 Evergreen Street and with the Schmidts, and they're going to tell us about their garden, and it is just spectacular. And I understand you have rooms in your garden. So would you like to tell us how this started out and where you got those ideas from?
So it started kind of like a clean slate after having septic system put in. And I just decided that I had read this article about taking your property and breaking it up into rooms. So that's what I did. I broke the property up into different rooms and created a kind of a little haven in each area.
Very nice. You've done a great job.
Thank
so tell
you.
me about each little room.
Well, this room has a Japanese maple that I grew from a seedling from my mom's tree in New Jersey.
21 years ago.
21 years ago. And then we created one with our raised beds, and we created another one with a water feature. And
yeah, of course we have the pergola on the other side of the house here too. So this room is kind of like, it's not really an English garden, you would say. It's more like just kind of an area, just kind of very, very quiet area. We can just hang out here.
I love evergreens and conifers and sedum and anything green. So there's lots of greenery everywhere.
And lots of places to sit, lots of places to relax under different atmospheres, so to speak. This is a little quieter back here. And of course the side out by the pond is where the water feature is, the sound of water. And of course we eat breakfast and lunch and dinner out there also, and
which is fun.
Which is great. So.
Well, you've certainly done a great job. I've enjoyed looking at this, and I'm sure everybody else will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
It.
We love it. It's our therapy.